What's up, guys, and welcome back to On the Brick. So, what you're about to see is a single question that I answered for the Q&A. I actually filmed this after I filmed everything else for the Q&A because of reasons that I just am about to go into, but it wasn't really meant to be such a long answer. Because it is, I'm just putting it out on its own here today. I hope you enjoy. PB Productions asked, what is a 9 to 5 job that I would love to do? So this was a question that I actually originally answered right after reading it, and I went on a long rant about it. I don't know what I originally said because I'm just gonna cut that out and completely ignore it because I realized something today as of filming this a few days ago as for you. I wasn't able to fully and properly answer that question because I just wasn't in the right mindset to do so. Now, after talking to my parents and talking to my girlfriend and taking the days to reset my mind, Sirius just hit the camera and he's gonna knock over my water. I was able to focus a little bit more on this. This question stuck in my mind, and I actually told my dad about this question, and he laughed. And the reason that he laughed is because I would not work a 9 to 5 job. There is not a 9 to 5 job in the world that I would ever want to do. There's just none. You would have to pay me like a stupidly extraordinary amount of money to want to sit down and work a basic 9 to 5 job. Even something like Lego, I would not want to do 9 to 5. And I know because I did for almost a year. It wasn't exactly 9 to 5, but I did work at the Lego store for almost a year. And even with this channel, I don't really set hours to it. I kind of do. I kind of do. There's a certain point in the morning before that I won't work. There's a certain point at night that usually I won't work. Today's the exception for that. But it's not like I set a 9 to 5 where in those 8 hours I have to work on Lego or on the channel or on the website or whatever. I don't do that. And part of that is because the 9 to 5 workspace or the idea of working 9 to 5 is a very American, very capitalistic idea. Again, heaters going off. It is 2 degrees outside right now. I'm not turning that off. I'm sorry. um, but it is a very American, very capitalistic idea to sit there and work 8 hours a day, even if it doesn't take you 8 hours to work or to do. And that's something that I found in literally every single job that I have worked at. And I have worked a lot of jobs. I just tried to count how many, and I got to 9, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few, but I've worked a really good variety of jobs, and that does not include all of the unofficial stuff like teaching piano, like helping my parents in their jobs, which I've done a lot of, like physical work, like dog sitting. That does not include any of that. Like actual, I went and I had like, I don't want to say a contract, but like I had an interview, I sat down and did all this whole process, whatever. Like I had to go to a place and do a job. I've done that about 9 different times now. Given one of those jobs literally lasted 2 days, one of those jobs literally lasted only a week. And not because I did bad, but because I instantly realized that those were not jobs I wanted to do, and so I just left. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not take me as the example of what to be. Not at least how I was. I'm trying to be a better person now. Those were stupid mistakes. I should have kept those jobs until I had a different one. However, I don't work that way. I think it was Carl Sagan, and I'm going to butcher the quote here, so if I do, I'm probably just going to find the actual quote, or probably just find the actual quote. And he says that something happens between first grade and 12th grade that destroys the person. Now, for you non-Americans, first grade is about 6 to 7 years old. 12th grade is about 17 to 18 years old. It's literally like the first year of school for most people to the last year of high school before they go off to college, university, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I think Carl Sagan is very, very correct about that. And of course he is. I mean, it's Carl Sagan. If you don't know who he is, you probably know who he is. He's Carl Sagan. And it's very, very true. I am very thankful that I grew up with a family that let me ask questions. And not only let me, but encouraged me. They wanted me to. And my dad did this thing that always frustrated me so much. But it was a really smart idea, too. Because what my dad would do is if I asked a question, sometimes he would tell me I already knew the answer. For instance, one time my family and I were driving up to the mountains here, and I saw a sign that said, "Watch out for big game." And I asked my dad, "Well, what does that mean?" And he goes, "Well, what's a game?" Now, to me, of course, I was 6 or 7 at the time. I went, "Well, a game is like this thing that you play." I was, this was before I really had video games. I think this was like right at the time that the first Xbox came out, and I definitely did not have that. So, to me, board games were or games were like board games or games you play with your family or friends, and I that was the idea that I had. And my dad goes, "Okay, but what else do you know as a game?" And I didn't know. And I was thinking, and I told my dad I don't know, and he goes, "No, yes you do, yes you do." And I really did not know. And so finally he told me that game means, well, animals. Specific type of animals, deer, elk, that kind of stuff we have in the mountains. Um, but he like insisted that I knew that. And ever since that day I did. I've never forgotten it since that day, 20 some years ago now, almost 20 years ago, maybe at least around 20 years ago. And he did that a lot where he would insist that I knew the answers to questions that I was asking, even if I didn't. First, because sometimes he legitimately thought we did. Um, and second, because I feel like doing that, it never made me feel dumb. It never made me feel like I didn't know anything. It made me feel like I needed to search my brain more. Like I needed to dig deeper. Like maybe at some point I had heard the answer. Maybe at some point I knew what this was. And all I had to do was just dig a little deeper into my mind and pull out that answer. And him doing that. And my mom was very similar. She always encouraged us to ask questions and always helped us find answers and whatnot. But my dad was the one who would always just, I would ask a question and go, "You do know it, you do know it." But him doing that, I think, helped me think more critically. Um, and that, but also my parents always let me be creative. Now, as some of you know, I've played piano ever since I was 5 years old. At the time of recording this video, that is 21 years of playing piano. I'm no maestro, but I do know what I'm doing. And they will be the first to tell you, and I will be the first to tell you, I had no interest in playing piano when I started. I just did not want to do it. And part of that was because the teacher that I had, great teacher, still remember her, but she was really strict on making sure that I learned the theory and the proper techniques to play piano. Sit up straight, where my foot goes, where I start my hands, breathe, count, measure, this, that, sight read, I almost said ear read, ear playing, what's it called? I've never, I've never been good at that, playing by ear. I'm working on it. I've actually gotten a lot better over the last few years, but it's not quite where I want it to be. But um, But if it wasn't for that, first of all, if it wasn't for my parents pushing me through that for the 5 or 6 years that it took to actually do that, I wouldn't be at the point where I am now. Now I can sit down. All of that is second nature to me. You can put a sheet of music in front of me, and I can pretty much figure out how to play it. Obviously, more complicated things will take more time, more playthroughs. It's not perfect. Like I said, no maestro, but I can read music instantly. I have a good idea of how to pretty much play anything at this point, and that's just because I've been playing for 21 years. But the reason that I didn't give up is because our my third piano teacher. Um, well, first of all, if you've ever played piano and you know what guild is, that's why I hated playing piano. If you don't know what guild is, in to make it very, very, very quick, once a year I had to learn 10 different songs and memorize a bunch of scales to know if they were major or minor. For like 6 or 7 year old me, that was terrifying, and I really hated to do it, and I basically never practiced because I just didn't like doing it. I have a great memory, I just didn't enjoy doing it. Um, but our third piano teacher, I went to him, I sat down, it was the very first day, he asked if I had any questions, and I went, "Do you do guild?" And he goes, "I have absolutely no idea what that is." And I went, "All right, I'm going to like you." And I did. And he taught me to love piano because he let me play the music that I wanted to play. And yes, look, this is all going to wrap back around to that 9 to 5 question. But he let me play the music that I wanted to play. Apparently, I've exceeded the maximum amount on that video. But he let me play the music that I wanted to play. He let me do what I wanted to play. I brought him a Star Wars sheet music that I had that my previous two teachers wouldn't let me play. And he went, "Okay, let's learn it." And we played it so much that I showed up one day and he said, "We are done with Star Wars. We're going to do something else," because I just loved playing it. And it clicked in the summer between when I turned 11 and 12. Well, technically I had turned 12, but it clicked to me that piano can be fun, that I don't have to sit here and play boring songs. I don't have to sit here and be bored by it. I can play what I want to play. And not only can I play what I want to play, I can make my own music. And so I did. I sat down and I made my own music. And the very first song that I made was, I actually started making it before I went to this teacher, and it was called "The Run of Your Life." I still remember it. I still remember how to play most of it. And I have the sheet music somewhere. But I went to him and he helped me make it so much better. He took it from being handwritten to being professional. There was this whole section that he wanted to add of like arpeggios that I took out, which like they sounded great, but it wasn't the type of song that I was going for. And because I was going for this like, I wanted to go for this intense music. It's not. It's really, really not. But I wanted to, and for the first time, I wrote a piano song that I liked. Because I had been writing piano music for a while, but it wasn't very good. And I still remember a lot of the early songs that I tried to write. But that was the first one that I wrote, and I was very proud of it. And we actually went to a competition. I got honorable mention. I was so happy because I was like, wow, it actually got accepted into it. They didn't just outright say no, which was a possibility, and they would end up saying no to me many times. But I was so happy to be able to have like done that and to have participated in that, because he just opened up this whole new door of a creative world for me, one that I still do to this day. I still write music to this day, and if I had a piano with me, which there's a whole sub thing to that, I might just start putting my own music into the background of videos if and when I can get the time to actually translate it from just playing on a piano to, like a MIDI file that I can play for you. Um, but without my parents' encouragement to continue through the basics, to continue through the boring parts, I would have never gotten to the point in piano where I would be able to do the creative side, the thing that I liked, and be where I am today. Because my parents were always like that. Whenever I wanted to do or try something, as long as it wasn't stupid or dangerous, they usually let me. And most of that is because I never wanted to do stupid or dangerous things. I was never the kid that was like, oh, look, a bridge, I want to jump off of it. I was the type of guy that they took to swimming lessons that when I was 5 years old and I sat at the edge of the pool because I had no idea what was going on. I, it's one of those weird memories where I, yeah, we're just gonna cut that part out. No one needs to know about me not swim. Anyway, I did eventually learn how to swim. But I remember like I would take cardboard boxes and I would build and I would make buildings out of them. They didn't look great, but they let me do that. One time when I was I want to say 12, 13 years old, I made an entire city in our basement. Whatever you're imagining, I guarantee you it was worse than that. But I still did it with a bunch of cardboard boxes, with Lego, with uh, Hot Wheel cars and everything. I went down there and I made a full city and I had a whole backstory to it. I even somewhere I wrote out like a whole story for it. And I even like started trying to come up with ways that I could get these tiny metal planes and these plastic planes that I had to actually fly from one side of the room to the other. Never worked. My idea was really stupid, but I remember doing that. And not only that, but my parents encouraged it. My mom eventually made me take down the city because it took up like half the basement floor and it was a mess and it kept growing. But she still encouraged it. She still liked it. She still was happy that I had expressed my creativity there. And especially, they especially do this whenever I'm writing. My parents have given me so many resources for my writing. They've helped me out so much for that. They've read pretty much everything that I send to them, and they give me feedback and they enjoy it. And there are times that I will write something and I will have no idea how it is, and then my parents will say it's really good, and that's when I know it is because they will be honest. If I write something that's totally bad and total crap, they're going to let me know. So when I write something that's good, that they enjoy, that they like, they are honest about it, and that's when I know I've done good. I even one time wrote a story that was super sad. I sent it to them. Didn't warn them that it was an incredibly sad story. I woke up the next day to a message from my dad being like, next time, don't depress the hell out of me. And I was like, my bad. It was a pirate story that I wanted to write, and it's kind of canon in this whole other thing now, but that's a whole other story. Now, what in the world does piano playing and creative writing and all of that have to do with a 9 to 5 job? Well, because a 9 to 5 job is meant to control you. It is meant to sit you in a building for 8 hours a day where you do a task, and you do a task that is not what you are like, that you have not given yourself. Someone else is making you do this. You cannot do it to how you want it, to your specifications. You have to do it how they want it, and sometimes they're not even the one in control. Sometimes it's someone else entirely. And so you are there in a place that you don't own, that you are not in control of. You cannot do anything. Anything goes wrong, you can't fix it most of the time. You're going to be expected to. Like, there are things, and don't get me wrong, I'm saying two different things here. There are things with your task that might not work out how you want it to. Maybe you're supposed to print out some files and the printer gets jammed. You can fix that. That's not what I mean. I'm saying, like, if you have to send important files and you email it to wherever it's supposed to go and they don't receive it, there is nothing you can do about that, but you're still going to get blamed. It will still be your fault. Because in American society, and I don't know about the rest of the world because I don't live in the rest of the world, but in American society, they will find every single way to blame you for something or say that you did something wrong. They will find every possible reason to not give you more money, to not promote you and to not recognize you for the work that you do. This is not true for every single place. There are good places out there, but this is true for most places because the American work system is not meant to recognize achievements. It's not meant to make sure that if you do a good job, you get rewarded accordingly. It's not meant for any of that. The American work system is meant for the higher ups, and the higher up you go, to get more money. And the only way that they get more money is you get less money. And there is no way and no reason that I ever want to work in a place that does that. I don't want to work a 9 to 5 job because I am a creative person whose mind is wandering endlessly. You know how many nights I have stayed up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning outside of my control because I'm either thinking of a song or a story idea or just something is going on up here that I need to let play out. And I can't do that at a 9 to 5 job. I can't go to a place and do a job that takes 1 hour and then sit there for 7 hours pretending that I'm doing something to satisfy a guy who knows that I've already finished my job, but I have to pretend that I didn't for the next 7 hours because I'm not even allowed to go home early or anything, and I have to sit there and do that job and be bored out of my mind because if I finish the job early and I show them that I've done a good job and I've finished it early, instead of getting rewarded for that, I would just get more work. And I would not get more pay to do more work. I would just get more work. Which is why, if you ever go to a job and they say, hey, we need you to finish this by the end of the day, you finish it at the end of the day and not a second earlier. If anyone ever asks you, how long is this going to take? And you think, well, it's only going to take an hour, you tell them it's going to take 2 hours. Because if you say an hour, they're going to expect it. However long they give you, that's how long you make it last. Because the second that you do better, they're not going to reward you for it. They're not going to go, oh, hey, yeah, you do a great job or whatever. They're just going to give you more work. And you are going to have to fight for every penny that you earn. And that is why I do not want to work a 9 to 5 job, regardless of what it is. Because there have been so many places, even Lego, that have consistently changed the rules, that have consistently changed the habits, that have just hated the fact that honestly, that I have a creative mind, that I think outside of the box, and that sometimes I'm not going to agree with what the higher ups say because I simply can't. Sometimes people have really stupid ideas that I cannot sit there and silently be like, yeah, that's a great idea. Like even working at the Lego store, our manager asked us, consistently said, for like the last 3 months before I left, was consistently pushing for us to focus on the children. Okay, first, this was in the middle of the school year. There weren't children coming in. I mean, there are always children going into Lego, but this was in the middle of the school year. Second, the children. Someone is banging. Maybe I'm speaking too loud. I don't know. It is almost midnight. That's why the lights are off. Second, the children aren't the ones paying. I'm not saying to disregard the children. I'm saying to put the focus on the parents while not ignoring the children. Let the children play. Let the children have fun. But 9 out of 10 kids that went into that store didn't go into that store to buy anything. They went into that store because it's the Lego store. They wanted to look at the sets. They wanted to play. But if I went in there, like if a kid comes in here, let me start that over. If a kid went into the Lego store and I sat down and I talked to them and I went, oh, look, you want to buy the new Spider-Man set, blah, 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 and I, whatever, you're not paying me to talk to kids right now. I'm not going to pretend I am. But if I sat there and I talked to that kid, and no matter how happy I make that kid, no matter how much I make him like that set, doesn't mean a thing. if the mom or the dad doesn't want to buy it. And that was an idea that I said to my boss, or I tried to explain to my boss in much better terms than I'm saying now. And they did not like it. They did not like that I said that, and they started saying that I hated children. Now I don't. I don't like children. I don't. Okay, hold on. Let me be clear here. I don't have a problem with children, but I don't like misbehaving children that aren't mine. I don't have any kids, but I know that when I do, when they misbehave, at least I can do something about it. It might not always work, but when they're my kids, I can step in and I can try to calm them down. I can be a parent. I can be an adult. But when someone else's kid was in that store misbehaving, there wasn't a thing I could do about it. And the thing is, though, that's not what I said to my manager. I just said, if the kid is happy, that's fine. They're already happy being in the Lego store. You have to convince the one paying to actually pay for the set. Because if I could go to that kid and I talk about this, the Spider-Man set, and they're all happy or whatever, fine. But if I go to the mom or the dad, and this is all coming from a specific example, this is why I keep saying mom, but if I go to the mom or the dad and I make them happy about the Spider-Man set, I make them like the Spider-Man set, I make them realize that, hey, getting the Spider-Man set gonna make their kid happy, they might actually buy it and help out the store and accomplish the goal that we were aiming for the entire time. Like I said, my manager didn't agree, and they weren't too happy that I was talking about that. And to be completely honest, that's kind of happened at most places that I work. A lot of the time, I just shut up and I don't, and yes ma'am, whatever, yes sir, I do the job. And that's kind of what you should do. But I just hate that. I am not the type of person that can do that. A lot of people can. And again, I've worked 9 whatever different jobs because I work what's available and I do the job. And there are places that I'm applying to now that are not places that I have any aspirations of working at long term, but I would be happy to because it's going to bring in money, and I'll go and I'll do the job to the best of my ability. If I have to, go flip burgers, I'll be the best burger flipper that store has ever had. Well, I'll try to be. That's a part-time thing. And it's to bring in money, and that's a necessity, but it's not something I ever want to do long term. I really I know that this simple question turned into a rant that at this point is going to be a whole video that's going to come out on Wednesday. Look, I have no idea what day of the week it is anymore. I think it's going to come out on Wednesday for you. I have no idea what day it is when I'm filming this. I think it's Monday. The days have kind of just blurred by, and without football, don't really know which day Sunday is anymore. But I know this whole answer turned into a long rant about a bunch of different things, but 9 to 5 jobs are not meant for creative minds or for, as Adam Savage calls them, makers. People who make things in their lives, people who build or who create, like musicians, literal builders, even Lego people. It's you can't work at a 9 to 5 job like that. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't happen, because I think that makers of all people, or like the creative minded of all people, will understand that even if you set a 9 to 5 schedule, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are working the entire time. Something that might be slated to take 8 hours might not take 8 hours. And that's okay. And I don't know if I'm making any sense in any of this. I don't. I might not be. I might be completely alone in this. You guys might have given up listening to this 10 minutes ago, going, what in the world is John ranting about now? But I really, really feel like that is something that more of the world needs to know. That the 9 to 5 job, and not necessarily the 9 to 5 job itself, but what it stands for, what it really means, what it really is, that's not what life is anymore. The the people who created that aren't the people working it anymore. My generation, your generation, doesn't work that way anymore. And I don't think you should strive for a 9 to 5 job. I'm not saying don't try. I'm not saying don't work. Try to get a job. Try to make income. You have to. But do what's best for you. Do what's best for your family. And if it happens to be a 9 to 5 job, don't let your spirit die. Don't let your creativity die. Don't let your critical thinking die. Do it because you have to, which is a terrible thing to have to say. And that, and not this is not a promotion, but that's why I started my own website. That's why I'm trying to start my own website. That's why I'm starting this channel. Because if I can do my own thing, if I can bring in my own income with my own work, I will take that any day of the week. Because you know what that means? Because if I'm bringing in my own income, doing these part kits, making this channel, then maybe one day down the line, my girlfriend and I will live together. And she'll stop being my girlfriend and start being my wife. And maybe we'll be fortunate and we'll have kids. And if I'm still doing this, or I've created my own business where I am working for home, not on the watch of anyone else, I don't have to work on anyone else's watch. I don't have to work on anyone else's needs or desires. I get to do my own thing. That means my kids get to grow up with a father at home. Like I had. Like I had with my dad. Like I had with my mom. And I'll tell you, for me, that is one of the greatest things that I've ever had in my life. Every single day coming home from school, one of my parents was there. My mom made cookies for me almost every day that I got home. Because my parents worked from home, they got to go to every single piano recital that I ever had. They got to go with me to that piano competition where I submitted my song and it was accepted for the 3 years that it was. They got to go with me whenever I needed to go somewhere or wanted to go somewhere or needed to do something, whatever it was, they were able to do it. They never missed a birthday. Whether it was my birthday or a friend's birthday, they never missed it. We always had dinner as a family. Every single night. That's why I still go over once or at least once a week, is to be able to have a meal with them because it's that important. And I want to make sure that I can do the same for my children. And if I'm working 9 to 5, how can I be at home if my children get off of school at 2 or 3 p.m.? How can I do that? I can't. And I don't want, like, look, I had babysitters when I was young. And there's a whole bunch of reasons and whatever. I went to daycare when I was young. But when the memories started forming, when the formative years started, my parents were always there. And they worked hard for that, and they still work hard for that. And you know what? Unfortunately, there are days that my dad is working. Well, I don't know if he is so much anymore, but there were days that he was working till 1, 2 in the morning to get the job done. There are times that, we would go on vacation, and so he was working non-stop for the full week before then just so we can go and enjoy it. There were times where, again, I would have a piano recital, and so he would have to wake up an hour or two early to get his work done. But it was his choice to do that. He got to do that. And it kind of sucks that he has to work those extra hours. But if you ask him, is working till 2 in the morning worth it so you can see your son play piano in a recital the next day? I guarantee you he would say yes. And for me, if I have to sit here and I have to work a 15-hour day so that I can go and support my kid the next day, I almost said something much worse. You better believe I'm going to do it. I will do that any day of the week. Because being there for my kids, even though they don't exist yet, even though they are years from possibly ever existing, if I ever have kids, I want to make sure that I can be there for them. And that's where all of this comes around. Because my parents were there for me. And they were there for me because they didn't have 9-to-5 jobs. Because they allowed me to be creative, to be thoughtful, to think critically, to build and to make and to be the person that I am today. And I want to do the same for my kids, if I ever have any. So that is going to be this question. Originally it was going to be a question for the full Q&A that is coming out on Friday, but clearly this is like a 30-minute video on its own, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit this now, probably head to bed, and yeah, like I said a little bit earlier, if you're wondering why this entire video was filmed in a dark room, 2 reasons. 1, it's basically midnight now, and 2, my living room doesn't actually have any overhead lights. I only have a lamp in front of me and a lamp behind me, and neither looked good while filming. So I'm using my ring light here, as you can see me put my hand in front of it on my glasses. Again, I don't know why that's blue. Really cool. Anyway, thank you for your question. I don't remember who asked it at the time of saying this, but I'll put it here. Thank you for asking that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did I make any sense? Or your thoughts on a 9-to-5 job? I know I have a lot of viewers from not America, so what's it like for you? Please do like this video if you agree with me, or don't. Likes always help, and subscribe as we're getting back into custom LEGO very soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry for the audio quality, it is going to get better soon, and I will see you next time.